another road trip, but this one ended in a win for Tennessee football. I'm Caleb Jarrow. That's Eric Woods with the Daily Beacon, and we just watched Tennessee pick up a 33-27 win over Kentucky. That was not pretty at times, and definitely not the game I think either of us wrote about in our predictions. Eric, what was your biggest takeaway from tonight?
I mean, you found this was the best offensive game they've had all year. I mean, it didn't really equate into the points that you're used to of a good offensive game with Tennessee, but also you have to think Kentucky doesn't run with tempo. They try to play as slow as possible. And I don't know if this is accurate, but in my recap, I called it a shootout. That might be
It was a
stretch.
shootout between two very slow-moving teams.
Yeah,
it felt like.
exactly.
And Tennessee does not often move slow.
No.
I mean, you're right. Whenever you look at Kentucky, traditionally, and even this season, it's handoff to Ray Davis on first down, play action pass on second down, probably another handoff on third down, and before you know it, 5 minutes has passed.
Yep.
Tonight, it was almost the exact opposite. Tennessee was running the ball. Tennessee was wasting a lot of clock. And Kentucky was sitting back and throwing it. And I felt like Devin Leary in Kentucky probably had one of their best offensive games of the year through the air.
Well,
Tennessee was in a lot of soft zones. And normally when you're playing a run-heavy team, that would make sense because you're loading the box. But in the post-game presser, Josh Heupel didn't feel like he loaded the box a lot, or didn't say that maybe the team loaded the box a lot. I don't know. It was very strange. It was a lot of bend but don't break, but they broke off.
Yeah, I mean, naturally the opposing quarterback on the road had their best game in that uniform. It just happens. It's just how it is. And I really, it's gonna happen again, and it's gonna cost them. You know, the defense, I was not impressed. I mean, like you said, they sat back in soft zone, and when they're at home, they're throwing everything at the quarterback, and the quarterback doesn't have time to breathe. And it's not like Kentucky's this stacked offensive line.
No, it's actually pretty poor.
Exactly. So I mean, I don't get it. It's a struggling quarterback who is, I think he's averaging maybe 150 yards a game, most interceptions in the SEC, and you just let him sit back and pretty much do whatever the heck he wants. And that's just, you're lucky that it didn't come back to haunt you, but at the same time, you just have to see better in that area.
Yeah, in the post-game press conference, Josh Heupel was asked about why Devin Leary was able to sit back so long, and he kind of paused, almost to hint as maybe it was an officiating issue or something of that sort. But I mean, I'm with you, Eric. I do feel like they sent pressure, but it was almost like it wasn't, just something was not effective.
Yeah.
Were there holds? Yes, I'm sure, and I'm sure everybody watching, and us too as well, will see screenshots on Twitter about the holds later. But just overall, I don't really feel like holds would be something to pinpoint tonight, but almost, and this might be a football answer, but when you come and face a team that's running the ball, you're not going to be able to pin your ears back and blitz because you're expecting them to run the ball. And luckily for Tennessee tonight, like some people pointed out, the defense won it for them against A&M. The offense really stepped up tonight. You saw Jalen Wright in the first half. I think he was at 1.11 carries over 100 yards.
120.
And his longest run of the year with a 52-yard touchdown. And then in the second half, with Jalen Wright, quote, nicked up near the end, Dylan Sampson carried the load and looked very good at the end, and he iced the game. What did you see from that running back group tonight? I
mean, just a group that no matter who's in there, they're a threat to make plays. That's not new information.
No.
But I mean, they're gonna make plays. You saw like Jalen Wright started everything. I think just like I think Virginia, Jalen Wright started it, Dylan Sampson finished it. I mean, 4 touchdowns in that game, and then Dylan Sampson, he made, in my opinion, the biggest plays of the night, because in these final 2 drives you had a 3rd and 10, I think, and Joe Milton shovel passes it. Dylan Sampson gets assumingly stuffed, and all of a sudden he just starts running for a first down. And then later that drive, 3rd and 9, 11 yard rush, I think. Was that the touchdown, or was that a different time?
All I know is that if we're kind of trying to pick out which Dylan Sampson run was the biggest, that's the running back room that was doing pretty good. Something I want to bring up before we head out here and attempt to find our way back up to the press box, which will be an adventure in this bad boy. Joe Milton was, I want to say 14 of 16, a low number of passes, but he was efficient in what he did. He made good decisions. He slid when he needed to keep the clock running. He didn't throw it into trouble. He scrambled when he needed to. I feel like he took a couple sacks he didn't have to, but you won the game. That's negligible at the end of the day. With Joe Milton, though, I don't feel like this coaching staff trusts him. And I feel like that was the biggest at the end of the second half. You had 7 seconds left on the clock. and it was like second or third down, and you took the field goal then. When 7 seconds is easily enough time to set the quarterback back there, let him throw it. And it's one of those plays where if something's there, hit it, and if nothing's there, you throw it away, take the field goal. I just don't feel like that trust is there yet. He didn't throw it a lot tonight, and I feel like that some of those plays were there. Eric, what do you see from Joe Milton at this point in the year? Do you think the staff trusts him yet to run this offense completely?
Today was a step forward. That's not an
a win is better than last week.
I don't know. I think from my perspective, I did see a lot of trust in him because you had guys you had him late in the fourth quarter making throws, and I think he had a little more. I don't know. We don't have stats, so
yeah, no, we didn't get a box score. We barely made it to the media room. So
I was like 5 minutes late to Heupel's presser. So
somewhere in the fourth quarter, the stats for Tennessee started tracking for Kentucky, and I was unprepared. I didn't know it was going to be like a high school game where you got to get the notebook out and track the stats. So we don't have official stats in front of us. Bear with us, but I do feel like maybe some trust was there, but I just feel like tonight especially, you could have thrown the ball more. I mean, we don't see a Josh Heupel offense where, 16 passes, 17 passes, whatever the exact number was, 18, is still very low, and I'm curious to see what the average is for this offense and how much lower it was than that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like, that wasn't the best offensive performance I've seen, I think. And then you have the times where it's like a short yardage situation, run up the middle, shotgun, run up the middle, and that's still an issue. And it's like
red zone is still an issue too with those same situations.
Exactly. So I think you saw the screens, of course, but then I think the biggest thing for me was you saw a little bit of that intermediate passing game that we've been looking for all year. You had Dante Thornton, who would you call it a breakout or?
3 passes, but it was
3 big passes.
Once again, they didn't throw it a lot. So those 3 passes ring even more true than, a normal night.
But, he led the team in receiving yards, and he didn't drop the ball.
Yeah, that's always a step forward. I feel like we might be picking at little things here after the win, but we have all week to do that. And as for us, like I said, we're going to try to find our way up top and then hopefully find our way back home tomorrow. So for Eric Woods, I'm Caleb Jarrow. Our last football road trip for the year, I believe.
I think so.
Except for a bowl game. So it's been a fun one. And
they did clinch a bowl game today.
That is true. They did clinch. If anybody was worried if they were going to make it, but we got basketball season coming up. We'll be making a lot of videos, lots of podcasts. So, like I said, for Eric Woods, I'm Caleb Jarrow. This is another production of the Daily Beacon Sports Podcast Network.